When comparing the two games, baseball and softball, there are many people who have questions on what makes them similar and what makes them different. A quote that I like to use to compare the two sports is that baseball is a game of feet and softball is a game of inches. Though they seem similar, they are very different. Whether watching games on the big screen or playing in a co-ed softball league later in your adult years, it's important to know the differences between these two sports and be educated on them. In my childhood, I played t-ball, little league softball, and then when I got into high school, I played on my high school softball team. And my dad, all growing up, has coached baseball, and so I've watched him a lot. And so I've seen a lot of baseball games as well. So that's where I have my information for the topic. Also, I've done some in-depth research on the rules and regulations of the two sports so that I make sure I give accurate information to you guys. Though they may seem different, there are major differences that keep them different, and then they also have similar in the ways that they have the same basic rules. The points that I want to be speaking about today are the history, the similarities, and the differences about baseball and softball. To begin, though they have evolved over time, there was a time when neither of them were around. However, in the mid-1800s was when baseball was created, and the first MLB game was on April 22nd, 1875. Since then, millions of games have been played in all sorts of different leagues, in the major leagues, minor leagues, little league games, and college games, and any other leagues. According to the website SLFB, as of 2018, there are 217,042 games that had been played in the MLB. Softball was a breakoff of baseball and was established later in the 1800s as well. Kyle Greco, in his article, 5 Things You Need to Know About Softball, says, softball was created by a group of men trying to escape the cold Chicago months, trying to play indoors. In the article, The Development of Softball by Jessica DeGray says that the rules were made more uniform in 1934 by the Joint Rules Confederation. The next thing I want to talk about is when the two sports were created, they were made similarly, but then they evolved and were separated from each other. So one major difference between them is obviously that a softball is a lot bigger than a baseball, but to equal them out eventually, the softball bats were made skinnier and the baseball bats were made thicker so that it actually kind of equals itself out. Also, there are 9 players on a baseball and a softball team, 3 players in the outfield and 6 players in the infield. The 3 players in the outfield are the right, left, and center fielder. And in the infield, there's the pitcher, catcher, first base, second base, third base, and shortstop. Also, on both sports, they have a first and third base coach that will be telling them where to go, when to run, if they should do different plays, and things like that. They'll give them direction on to the runner if they are running the bases, whether they should keep running or if they should stop so that they don't get out. They'll also give signs to the players that will tell them that the play that they're going to be running. Both sports have a professional aspect. So the very well-known Major League Baseball Association is well-known in baseball, and they have the major leagues, and then they also have the minor leagues, which is single, double, and triple A, but they're all connected to major league teams. For softball, the less known National Pro Fast Pitch was established in 2004. However, as of 2022, there's a new league called the Women's Professional Fast Pitch, according to World Baseball and Softball Confederation. Finally, as similar as they may seem in basics, there are other major differences that the two sports have. The first difference is the pitching that they have in the two different sports. In baseball, the pitchers throw overhand, and in softball, the pitchers throw overhand with a full rotation of the elbow, or of the shoulder. They also have very different sized fields. So baseball has 90-foot bases, and the fences go out 450 feet. However, in softball, the bases are 60 feet apart, and the fences are a lot shorter. The pitching mound in baseball is 60 feet and 6 inches away from home plate, and in softball, it's 43 feet away. These differences are what makes it different is because the pitching of baseball is a lot faster, and so that's why the mound is a lot farther away. But in softball, the ball can't go as fast, and so that's why the pitcher's mound and the plate are closer together. To conclude, there are big and small differences that make these sports separate, but they also have very similar basic structure. In different ways, they've stayed the same throughout time since the 1800s, but they are also very different still. Although softball and baseball may seem similar, there are major differences that make them different games. in my own life, I've seen the effects of people getting annoyed or frustrated when baseball and softball players do not know the rules, or if people in general do not know the rules of the two sports and how they're different. And so that's why it's important to know the difference between the two sports.